your Lake Fork guide. Hey, both professional tournament tours kicking off at Toledo Bend. And is the tournament fishing industry doomed? We'll talk about it all tonight, man. Y'all join us. About to have some good times. Come on. Come on. Yes, there is a white redneck that does not know how to dance dancing on your screen right now. That's what's happening. Cheers, y'all. Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide. Hey, we got to rock the Texas Cup tonight after that Cowboys performance yesterday. We're not even going to get into the football, man. My gosh, Cowboys. What the hell happened? First thing, somebody says, how about the Cowboys? No, we're not talking about the Cowboys. Let's go Houston. Some of y'all know, man, I grew up down closer to Houston, so I kind of got love for both teams, man. Tonight, we're getting into it. Tournament fishing talk tonight, man. We're going to break down what's happening. Tours just came back from Toledo Bend. What kind of shape is it in? Dude, there is so much grass on Toledo Bend. Oh, my gosh. Like, it is. Woo. We'll break down what we were seeing at Toledo Bend while we were there. We'll answer all your questions. We'll get into some drama, man, because that's what we do. So let's turn this thing down a little bit, man. Let's fade it out. Yeah. Changing up the musical flavor around here a little bit. I'm diverse musically. I just want y'all to know that your boy is diverse musically. Shane Green says he's hitting the fan transfer portal. I like it. Hey, as y'all get in here, man, appreciate the comments that are coming in. Man, keep them coming, dude. Let me know who we're talking to tonight. Later in the show, we'll answer questions, so make sure y'all ask your questions. Do me a favor and share this thing. That's the number one way you can help us is by sharing it. Really appreciate that, of course. We appreciate when you subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. I feel like you hear that a million times if you consume any social media stuff these days, so we won't pound you on it, but we will remind you and ask you to do it if you don't mind, because it does help us out as the whole social media business thing. Anyway, make the algorithm do its thing. Stuff that I don't understand. Way above my pay grade. Man, I'm excited to talk about Toledo Bend. I just came back from it. I'm definitely going to go back some more this year. I'm looking forward to that aspect of me, hopefully, if I can make it work my schedule, sneaking down there as much as possible. Both tours are kicking off at Toledo Bend. Let's see, I pulled up the schedules here so we get you guys some dates so you'll know when to watch for the live coverage. Bass Pro Tour is starting first. They're going to be January 30th through February 4th. So that's, what are we looking at? That's 2 weeks, guys. 2 weeks in a day. So I guess on Tuesday, how Bass Pro Tour has those weird start days in the week sometimes. But on a Tuesday, so 2 weeks from tomorrow, Bass Pro Tour will be starting their Get Down on their first Group A live coverage day at Toledo Bend, which should be, so we'll get to talk about that. It's going to be good fishing to watch. It won't be, last year we had kind of a weird schedule with some of the tour stuff, and some of it to me just wasn't that entertaining to watch. Well, this Toledo Bend event, these two Toledo Bend events, as long as the weather doesn't just totally poo-poo it, man, if the weather, in the wintertime, the weather can crap it out on you, and that could affect how the tournament plays out. But long as the weather just doesn't totally crap on the tournament, man, these are going to be great events to watch. Just amazing events as spectators. So I'm really excited about those. Then 3 weeks after that, February 22nd to 25th, that'll be a Thursday through a Sunday, like Elite Series always does. The Bassmaster Elite Series kicks off their season on Toledo Bend as well. The last time I was at Toledo Bend was like 3 years ago, and it was this time of year, right before we had Snowmageddon in 21, because we were going to fish a Bass Champs event that got canceled because of Snowmageddon in 2021. Myself and John Boland, my buddy from Oklahoma, were going to do it. But we were down there, found the grass, the lake didn't have grass in, but even without the grass, we found a really cool pre-spawn pattern on the shallow points. If you guys saw those videos, you saw those videos. But, man, right now this year, Toledo Bend has more grass in it than I can really remember. I'm sure some of the old heads, and I haven't just fished Toledo Bend a tremendous amount. I've fished it off and on throughout my life somewhat, but very sporadically. I just went, and it's been 3 years since I went. There was several years in a row that I went on a buddy's trip there during the spring, right before I started guiding and right when I started guiding for a year or two, and then schedule just got too busy for me to make it every year. and I've gone in years past before that, but Toledo is a special place. Obviously, it's one of the most hallowed grounds in the history of bass fishing. So much history there on the Bassmaster side, especially. I mean, going way back, way back, as long as you can remember. Toledo Bend's been part of our bass fishing culture, and man, you can kind of feel it when you get there. You know, it's in the town. Like those towns revolve around that lake. Everybody's jobs in some way or another is benefited by that fishery. And you know the little towns like Hemp Hill and Manny, and you know it revolves around that lake. And when the lake's doing really well, and the big name tournaments are coming there, and the lake's getting publicity, man, those guys, those businesses around there are doing pretty good. And then when it's not, you know, those guys got to tighten up their belts and struggle a little bit sometimes. So it's good to see Toledo been doing so well like it is right now. I'll call it. You heard it here first. Toledo Bend will be the #1 bass lake in the country sometime over the next couple of years. On Bassmaster's little top 100 list, Toledo Bend will be back to #1 sometime over the next couple of years. That's coming because I was really restricted. I went with my buddy Kelly Nutt. Appreciate him going down there with me, helping me look around. But we were really restricted on where we could go because we had insane wind. And the other thing about Toledo Bend, it's huge. I mean, it's just absolutely massive fishery. It's kind of, you really can't understand how big it is till you get on it if you've never been. Like if you're used to normal Texas lakes, like that ain't this. Like Rayburn is a huge lake, a massive lake. We all know Rayburn's a massive lake, and if you haven't fished Toledo, but you have fished Rayburn, well, Toledo is way bigger than Rayburn. It's just crazy how far back some of these little pockets that look like tiny little pockets on the map, man, they're like a small lake in and of themselves. It's just incredible. But when the wind blows, you got to be careful in Toledo. So we were really restricted. So we only got to stay in one section of one creek arm because of the wind. But everywhere that I went, I'm talking about from Main Lake to the back of the pocket, if you were in about 15 foot of water or less, you were starting to see grass on your screen. And if you were in 10 or 12 foot of water or less, the grass was right at the surface where you could see it with the naked eye. Now, that is incredible. And if you know how big Toledo Bend is and how much water there is that is that shallow, you know, that is 12 foot and 15 foot to 12 foot and less, that is just an overwhelming amount of grass. And we got some videos coming up this week. We'll explain more about how we broke it down and how we were able to locate fish within that overwhelming. Because I'm going to be honest with you, that morning we found a few little bites in the back in a creek channel that had the grass not growing as much in the creek channel where the creek flowed. And we caught a few fish doing that early. And then it took me till about midday to figure out how to actually catch those fish out of the grass because it was so overwhelming. It is an immense amount of grass. And I've already had a conversation with one of our biologists. Let's get this out of the way. So grass spraying is a sensitive subject, right? Everybody wants to talk about grass spraying. I think in general, the bass fishing public, especially some of the old guard locals and stuff, man, it just, it's an overreaction. Like there's an overreaction to spraying grass. I am very anti-grass spraying, but there is some maintenance at times that has to be done on fisheries to keep them functional. Giant salvinia is a real issue. And when you get an abundant amount starting to come in, you got to take care of it. There was a big, uproar about some spraying boats that were on Fork not long ago. And they literally were spraying the back corner of one pocket because they had a pond upstream from that was dumping salvinia into the lake. They have to spray that stuff. They have proven that they can spray in concentrated areas and target isolated areas and not have a massive effect on the grass in the lake as a whole. If you want some evidence of that, at Fin and Feather, where we stayed in Housing Creek, they had to spray last year just to be able to get back and forth from the boat lane. They had to spray around Fin and Feather just to get the boat lane clear to get out there. Texas Parks and Wildlife did that. They sprayed hydrilla to knock back hydrilla, but they did it in a controlled manner in an isolated area. And literally all of Housing Creek has grass. Everywhere you go in Housing Creek has tons of grass. So they have proven at this point that they know what they're doing. They definitely are bass fishermen and have the fishery's best interest at heart. They want the lake to have hydrilla. They want the lake to have grass. They no longer think of hydrilla as this invasive species that they have to get rid of. I've had the one-on-one conversations with the biologists. They want to promote growth of hydrilla. Now, they can't I shouldn't say promote. They can't promote it because it is technically an invasive species, but they do not want to get rid of hydrilla. And they have now proven that they can control it in certain situations and isolate the spraying to maintain it without being detrimental to the rest of the grass in the fishery or even an area of a fishery. So I've got more confidence in our biologists than I ever have in my life. They've got a lot more knowledge and information and scientific data than any of us have for the most part. There may be some exceptions. Some of y'all out there may be super smart at that stuff, but most of us have no idea some of the science that those guys know. No, we don't have a clue about it. And at this point, Texas is the shining light in bass fishing. Let's be honest. Texas is the best bass fishing on earth, period. Right now it is and has been for several years now. I think they've earned our trust a little bit by helping to develop the best bass fishing on earth. And other states envy our Texas Parks and Wildlife Department when it comes to the fisheries division. Man, give them a little bit of your trust, guys. They're doing a great job. Yeah, Toledo is in just incredible shape. I cannot believe how good it looks. It is as pretty of bass fishing water. And you'll hear me say that in Wednesday's video when the on the water stuff comes out. I have not seen any prettier bass fishing water in my life, period. Like, to look at it, the way it looks, the clarity of the water, the way that the health of the grass, the timber in the lake. Oh, man, the shoreline stuff, it just, oh, boy, I'm telling you, it is just flat unbelievable. Now, what's going to happen leading up to this first tournament is what we're experiencing right now. We've got a lot of snow. I've got snow outside this door right now. I think Toledo got some weather today, got some snow and ice stuff today. That's going to drop the water temps pretty dramatically, and that is going to knock the top off the grass. It should not kill the grass from my experience, but it will knock the top off. That is actually a very good thing. That is going to open it up because there's so much of the lake right now that you really can't fish unless you're punching the grass because of how close the grass has been to the surface. This weather knocking the top off the grass once it settles back in temperature-wise is going to make Toledo fish dynamite. And that's one of the reasons I'm super excited. This is all lining up. And if you look at the forecast of 10, 12 days out as far as you can, man, we got some 60 degrees and some 50 nights, like 60s for highs and 50 for lows. That's going to create a little bit of a warming trend heading into that tournament. And if that will hold, this could be an absolute lights out, knockdown, drag out event at Bass Pro Tour. I couldn't be more excited about it, man. Get the top off the grass. Now we can fish over the top of a lot of it, if not all of it. Man, somebody's going to find those stretches that just have them ganged up in pre-spawn, full pre-spawn mode, which is the best fishing of the year. Everybody that fishes in the wintertime knows this, that when you get the right situation on the right days, the best fishing of the year happens in the coldest water. Like it happens during pre-spawn when the water's really cold. Because those fish, right before it starts warming up, really gather up in big ways and in accessible positions in relatively shallow to mid-depth water. And once you find them, you can lean on them. And oh yeah, by the way, they're at their heaviest of the year. And the females are eating more than the males because it is cold, so their metabolism slows down a little bit, but females are really, really pregnant at this point, so they have to eat. I've actually got a pregnant woman in my house. I can assure you, they eat a lot, bro. Hopefully she's not watching and hear me say it. They eat an incredible amount, and so do these pregnant female bass. So, am I going to Fun and Sun this weekend? I will not be able to make Fun and Sun this year. It'll be the first year I haven't gone in many years. Coaching my son. My youngest son's playing youth basketball, coaching him, and we have basketball stuff every weekend right now. So can't get away to Fun and Sun. Wish I could. I'm going to miss that. I really enjoy that show. It's a great show. I encourage you guys to go to it. It's in Hurst, Texas, right over there in DFW, kind of between Dallas and Fort Worth. They do a great job. Heath Taylor from Smash Tech will be there with some great baits and a lot of vendors, a lot of local guys, some you may not have heard of. There's going to be some cool stuff at that show. There is every year, and this is the first time in probably 4 or 5 years at least that I haven't been there. So pretty disappointed that I don't get to go to that this year. So what I think we'll see at Toledo Bend, so because it is what it is, it's January, you're definitely going to have some guys that are scoping, that are going to be out there on the kind of main lake-ish stuff if the wind will allow them. They'll be out on the main lake type stuff, and they'll be live scoping fish off timber, doing the jerkbait thing like we've seen, many times before. In this time of year. Last time Bass Pro Tour was at Fork, they were there in February. Saw a lot of guys doing that then. The tournament was ultimately won up shallow in a ditch, cranking a flat-sided crankbait because we didn't have grass in because the lake was really low. So there was, shallow cranking and big spinnerbaits up shallow that ended up kind of winning the deal at the end. But a lot of the fish catches and a lot of the leaders were main lake, live scope on timber, jerkbait fish. You're going to see some of that at Toledo Bend. But I think you're going to see, as you'll see in our video Wednesday, there is plenty of fish up in that grass that are able to be caught. My first day on Toledo Bend in 3 years, we caught 25 bass. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. And most of them would have been, over 2 pounds. I think we had a few that maybe wouldn't have counted, but most of them would have been over 2 pounds. So we would have had, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 pounds, whatever it is. I haven't figured out how to calculate that when you're counting every fish real accurate like I can Best 5. But we would have had, probably enough weight in our boat that day to make a cut or something. But hell, if we're doing that, there's no telling what these guys are going to do. You're going to see some guys get up there in that grass and wind a trap, wind a chatterbait, and get in little pods where they catch fish over, and they really whack them and lean on them. So what was the biggest one I caught on Toledo? We didn't catch any real big ones. Probably pushing 5 pounds, 4.5, 4.75, maybe 5 pounds. I don't know. Sometimes I underestimate them. We caught one that was pretty solid, and we caught several that were the 3 to 4 pound types. So we caught plenty of solid fish, enough to make a decent little bag out of it. But it was my only day. I had one day, and it's my first day on there in 3 years, so I was really happy with that result. One of those deals where I felt like, okay, as the day went on, I figured out a pattern. If I was able to stay here for a few more days, I could really start dialing it in and finding areas that were holding a little better fish over others, and could really, if I had a couple days to practice more, man, we could really put on a show for y'all. But it is what it is. I was happy with it. The video is going to come out good. It's going to be fun for y'all to watch. Then looking forward to the Bassmaster event. By the time we get there, man, there's no telling what we're going to be doing, right? It's all going to be really weather dependent over February, over those, next 3 weeks after the Bass Pro Tour is gone. If we get a little bit of warm trending weather, we're probably going to get some of both. Likely, my history says you're going to get some warm trends, 1 or 2, and you're going to get some cold trends, and you're going to get some kind of middle weather. You're going to get a little bit of everything in February. It just is all going to depend on that. If it's mostly cold and the water temps keep dropping, then you're going to see kind of a similar tournament to what you're going to see with Bass Pro Tour, where you'll have a few guys that are doing the chatterbait thing, the trap thing, and then you'll have guys that are live scoping. And with Bassmaster being 5 fish, you'll probably have more guys live scoping trees, looking for isolated big fish that they can specifically target fish by size using that forward-facing sonar. So if it stays cold, that'll be the case. Now, it is not out of the realm of possibilities that we get the right warm trends to have fish spawning, okay, like up there where they're sight fishing for them at the end of February. Last year on Fork, we started about that time, February 25, 28, somewhere in there. It can happen so fast in the South, guys, in Texas. It can go from we're totally pre-spawned to holy crap, most of the fish in the lake seem like they're spawning in just a few days. That can happen. So all going to depend on the weather for the Bassmaster tournament. It's wide open what that could be. Total main lake staging deal, forward-facing sonar deal, or back of the creek looking at them on a bed, or somewhere in between. So we'll really have to watch the weather. Either way, I'm excited about it because the health of the fishery, if you know what grass does to bass, like it just makes their life so much more efficient. It makes their water column so much more healthy. It gives oxygen into the water column. We know that hydrilla puts oxygen into the water column. And most of the grass down there is hydrilla. I don't think I saw any coontail. It's all hydrilla. I saw a patch here or there of eel grass, but most of it, the vat, like 98%, 99% is hydrilla, which is the best kind of grass you can have. But it puts oxygen in the water, which makes them feel better, makes them be more active, makes them get after it a little more. But what it also does, man, it gathers things for them. It gathers algae, number one. It helps gather algae and things that bait fish like to feed on. That starts it all. The bait fish gather around that, start feeding. The bass gather around the bait fish and start feeding on them. And it makes those bass to where they don't have to travel much. They don't have to hunt much. They have cover. They can sit there and just ambush food when it comes by, or hang around the food and hide from it and ambush it. And their life becomes much more efficient and they get fat. If you'll watch this video on Wednesday from On the Water, you'll see those fish are healthy, Jack. They are chunky monkeys, dude. Like, they look like they've been on my diet going to the Whataburger every day after they get done fishing and stuff, you know. That double cheeseburger been doing them right up in them hydrilla flats. I'm just telling you, like, they're in good shape. And every time a lake gets really, really an abundance of grass like Toledo has, like Toledo has right now, those fish get really healthy. And so that's another good thing. The healthier those fish are, the more they weigh, so the weights are going to be more impressive. But also, when fish are healthier, man, they just seem to bite better. In my experience, when you get a lake that's got fat fish, they seem to bite better. They fight harder. They're more fun to catch. It just makes everything better. Grass really does make everything better in a bass fishery. So, yeah, Toledo, could not be more excited to watch it. I probably am starting to repeat myself a little bit. If y'all want to ask me some questions about Toledo, go ahead. Here in a minute, we'll move on. I do want to get into another topic tonight. As excited as I am to watch the start of this season, is big-time tournament bass fishing, is it doomed? I want to get into some of the business side of things tonight and give you guys my take and my opinion on what I've seen, having operated in the business for 8 years now, and being involved in social media and being around and having some inside knowledge of the tournament world. I want to give you guys kind of an insider look at some of the stuff and discuss some of it, because I do think we got some major issues. I mean, some serious major issues. Who am I? It's just my opinion, right? Take it for what it's worth. It ain't worth much, I guarantee you. But in my opinion, there's some things that we in the industry need to, excuse me, got a little indigestion going on, but there's some things that we need to wake up to in the industry and that we need to be aware of and maybe change some of our operating methods going forward based on that knowledge. So we'll discuss that here in a little while. Y'all drop some Toledo questions in here. We'll answer them. Ronnie Scott says he fishes on Nakanish, and he says the grass seems healthier in the winter. So the reason the grass seems healthier in the winter, okay, is because what happens is grass starts growing in the spring. It grows throughout summer. Towards the end of summer, the grass is really healthy down low, but you get the mats, you get the slime. The top of it dies a little bit in the heat, and it creates all that slime on top, and then that makes the grass beneath it start dying as well. It gets cut off from sunlight, which makes it kind of fade away and start struggling a little bit. Then the fall comes, water cools off, all that grass on the top starts growing healthy again, and then the winter comes and the cold actually knocks the top of the mat right off the surface a little bit. And so what you got is you got good healthy grass on the surface in the fall. Then it even cuts back a little bit, and now it clears up the water where you can really see all the grass. You can fish around it a little better. You can get your bait in and out of it a little better, fish over the top of it. And now when you pull up grass or when you visually see grass, you're seeing the healthy top of it. If you were to pull up whole strands of that grass, if it's growing in, say, 8 foot of water, it's growing up to 8 foot and 10 foot of water, so there's a 2 foot gap. If you were to pull the whole strand of that grass out, what you would see is the top couple feet would have all the leaves and look healthy. And the bottom would be just about all stem. There would be almost no leaves down there. So it's always the top part of the grass that looks the healthiest and blooms, except in the summertime when the top part dies from the heat a little bit and gets all slimy and matted up. And there's good ways to fish it when it's like that too. But so in the spring, you're seeing that ratty stuff that's just starting to grow, and it doesn't look quite as full and lush. Summer, it dies a little bit at the top layer where you can see it, and then underneath suffers because of lack of sunlight. Fall, it starts to get healthy, but it's still at the surface. The wintertime, it drops the top down, and you can actually see all the good, healthy top ends of the grass. Do I think the tournament will be won north or south of the Pendleton Bridge? So traditionally on Toledo Bend, good question, because the Pendleton Bridge, if you don't know, kind of cuts Toledo Bend right in half. It's an epically large body of water, man. It really is. And And they're going to go out of Cypress Bend usually. Is I'm assuming that's where they go. That's where they've always gone, is out of Cypress Bend, which is not too far south of the Pendleton Bridge, kind of halfway between Pendleton Bridge and Housing and 6 Mile on the Louisiana side. Excuse me, on the Louisiana side sits Cypress Bend Park, where they take off from. And I don't know what's up north of the Pendleton Bridge. I don't know what's in most of the lake. I was restricted to Housing Creek because of the wind. From what I've heard, talking to a couple of locals while I was there, and one of my buddies that lives down there, there's grass all over the south end. Now, is there grass on the north end? I don't know. So that could dramatically change where the tournament's won at, how healthy the grass is across the fishery. What I will say is traditionally, whether it's Texas Team Trail Bass Champs, one of the local derbies, or a Bassmaster tournament, traditionally, tournaments, most of them get won around 6 Mile and Housing. That's just seems to be where the biggest, kind of like Rayburn, man. You get up there around the 147 bridge area on Rayburn, I believe it's the 147 bridge. Y'all know what I'm talking about, deer stand, all that stuff up there. That's where most of the tournaments get won on Rayburn, is a little bit up the lake. On Toledo, it's kind of that southwest corner seems to be where the bigger fish live and are more consistently caught in tournaments. It's also where a lot more people fish. So maybe that's why, because there's more boats down there. I don't know. So there's more chances to catch those good ones. But if I had to guess, I would say same old as Toledo's always been, in my knowledge, is the Housing 6 Mile area is probably somewhere near there or in those is going to be where the tournament gets won at. It usually is on Toledo. Why don't they have very many classics in Texas? It's the best bass fishing route for big bass and big cities. I don't get it. So, that's actually a good question to transition us into the business side of fishing discussion, because that is what it is. It is the money. It is the business side of it. When a classic comes to town, they want you to pay. Bass wants you to pay for a classic. And we had one recently at Ray Roberts. And the other issue is facilities. You can't have a classic at Fork. There's nowhere to host. There's no stadium to put the weigh-in in close enough to Fork to do it. Same thing with Rayburn and Toledo. Can't have a classic there. Ivy, not going to happen. Falcon, nope. None of those can host a classic because of the lack of immense facilities. If you've ever been to a classic, the weigh-in is in a sure enough stadium, like a hockey, basketball type of stadium, or at least a small version of that. And then the expo. The expo is so big at the classic that you have to have facilities for it. Fort Worth was great. They had the Hardee's Arena that's like a basketball type of arena, pretty big, really big arena. And then right next to that's the Will Rogers Center, which has all those event halls. So you got to be somewhere where they can have a state fair. Like when we did the Classic at Conroe, they drove all the way down to Houston to have the facilities for weigh-in and for the expo. The expo is such a big part of that. And the Classic's making money off that. They got vendors paying to be in the expo. The Classic is free to attend in the stadium, but man, what a great opportunity for sponsors to get their product seen in front of thousands of bass fishing fans. So there's a lot of money, a lot of advertising money, a lot of space, rent space money that gets generated in a Classic. What did I say? Hardee's? Yeah, Dickey's Arena. I said Hardee's. It was Dickey's Arena. I got that wrong. I don't know why I said Hardee's. It's the Dickey's Arena in Fort Worth. Yeah. And in Houston, they did it at the baseball field at the old Juice Box, Minute Maid Park. And I think I don't know this because I didn't go, but they probably used the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is right there by that, for the expo, I'm sure, which is a huge expo center. So that's part of the reason we don't have it in Texas, because yeah, we have Great Lakes around city. Like, we do have some Great Lakes around DFW especially. We do. We really do. Ray Roberts being one of the better ones. Louisville's pretty okay. Grapevine's not big enough for, but that's the other thing I was about to say. A lot of the lakes around DFW just aren't big enough for a Classic. Where are you going to take them to Ray Hubbard, have the whole field run to the river? No, that's not really going to work, Lavon's, no. And it's kind of getting out there away from the facilities. So there's just really not a right fit for facilities and the type of lake that they want to fish for a classic that they have in some other places. The other aspect is they want you to pay. They want the Chamber of Commerce of the host city to write them a big old check. And Texas ain't going to do that as much as other places. Texas is a very conservative state. A lot of the city governments are conservative. They try to run balanced budgets. And they're just not going to have that kind of money in the budget to spend on a bass fishing tournament. You know, so they're not going to write the check if they don't have it in the budget. So that's the reality of it. Now, we might as well start here. And that's one of the ways that I think that we are missing the boat. 1 second, I need to let this guy know what's going on. Sorry about this right here, guys. This is an important phone call. I need to let him know that I will call him right back. Okay. Sorry. But one of the ways that I think Bassmaster is nearsighted or just seeing things for how they always have been. They put so much emphasis on their in-person fan interaction. And it's not that that's bad. Like, that is a good thing. I think when you can do it, when it's applicable, when it's practical, yeah, let's do it. But not at the cost of the visual product and the content online. You do not need to be scheduling tournaments at a fishery because this Chamber of Commerce will pay you an extra 50 grand or an extra 100 grand when if you went to a better fishery, your online views would scale 10x. That's the reality of it. If you're going to go to Bugs Island or wherever they went last year and caught nothing but like 2 and 3 pounders, if you're going to go there because they're writing you a check when you could have gone to Chickamauga or Gunnersville or name the big fish fishery where you would catch 7, 8, 9, 10 pounders at times and catch 20 plus pound bags, multiple, the content you can generate from being on a fishery that kicks out big fish is going to get so many more views that your marketing dollars that you can then generate through that are going to more than outweigh the tournament fee for the host city. I think they're totally missing that. Like, my whole issue with the bass fishing industry as a nutshell is that they are not, it's better now than it has been, but they have not at all recognized and still refuse to truly recognize how important the social media aspect is. They don't. If they did, here's the thing. For a professional angler, an individual professional angler, if you're a new guy on the Bassmaster Elite Series, please understand this. You've got to fish good enough to stay on the Elite Series. I understand that. And it's really hard to do. Them guys are freaking good. I get that. But for your career, which is money, right? You're trying to, like, that's the whole deal here. We want to fish for a living because we love it. But at the end of the day, we want to take care of our family the best we can while we're doing that. For the money aspect, your social media presence is more important than your tournament finishes. It really has become that. You don't believe me? Look at all the guys on social media that make a lot more money than the tournament fishermen do. And then they want to know why they can't get sponsor dollars. Well, that's because, check this out. If you're a company, and you're a big company, right? You're a Zoom, you're a Strike King, you're a Berkeley. And Justin Lucas, I think he's one of the finest men I've ever met. Nothing bad to say about Justin Lucas. And I don't even know what he has going on social. He may have a huge following. But Justin Lucas wants you to pay him. Let's just say Justin Lucas is one of the guys that doesn't really do a lot of social. Makes some posts here and there, but doesn't get into it, doesn't research the algorithms, doesn't make content consistently to try and scale up his viewership. And he wants you to pay him 20, 30 grand, which is less than Justin Lucas would ask for. He wants you to pay him 20 or 30 grand to go out on the tour and fish Berkeley baits. Okay. He's going to get good exposure when he does good and he's on live coverage. He's going to sell some baits. If he wins the tournament, he's going to sell a crap pile of baits for sure. You can do that, or you can reach out to 50 or 60 YouTube kids and send them some free product. YouTube kids that got 5 to 10,000 subscribers and, get 1,000 views a video, right? 1,000 views a video per week. That's nothing. That's low end. That's small guys. Those guys will happily represent your product for $500 of free stuff. Guaranteed, right? Guaranteed. So now you spent the same amount of money. If you got 60 YouTubers, you send them each $500 of product. You just spent 30 grand, right? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. 30 grand. And now you've got 60,000 views per week times 52. It's 3 million views. What is Justin Lucas going to do to get you 3 million views? He better win probably more than once to get you 3 million views on your product. And these guys are going to be using your product every week, putting fish on camera every week, using your product. What are you going to do as a company? So to bring value to a fishing company today and want them to pay you as a sponsor, buddy, you better be generating some freaking consistent views online. You better start researching what the top titles are. You better learn how to make a thumbnail that gets clicks. You better do some clickbaiting. You better do some of it. Like, you ain't got to go crazy with it, but you better do some of it to get some attention on your stuff. You better learn what format videos work best on all 4 different platforms that most people use. 5 different platforms most people use. You better figure all that stuff out, man. You better spend some time learning that stuff, and none of them do. You know what their answer? Here's their answer to it. The guys that have money already, right? The guys that already have some money, that have already established themselves, have some tournament wins, have some attention, have some sponsor dollars. Those guys' answer is, well, I'll hire an editor, and we'll film our tournament videos, and every once in a while we'll do a product feature. Boys, if you think it's bad now, it's fixing to get worse. Like, it's going to keep getting worse for the tournament fishing industry at the top level. You guys are going to continue to struggle and suffer the more these companies wake up. Because a lot of the companies are ran by old school dudes that still think tournament fishing is where it's at. The more those guys that retire and die off out of the industry, the more those dollars are going away from tournament fishing and on to social media. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Go up and ask any middle-aged or below person, and a lot of 40 and up, so a lot of 40 and 50-year-olds, right? Ask them, what fishing TV shows do you watch? They're going to tell you, somebody on YouTube. Like, they're going to tell you, I watch Ben Milliken, I watch Justin Rackley, I watch Gene Jensen maybe, if they're older. The younger guys can be like, I watch the Guggen Squad, I watch Kicking Their Bass TV, I watch Mikey Balls. Some of them are going to say me if they're in this region. Man, I'm just telling you, like, this industry better wake up, because everybody's talking about sponsor dollars being harder. It's been a big topic of discussion this year, how hard it is for guys to survive on tour. Well, it's because you just want to go fish the tour. It's not how the business works, dude. And to some degree, it's never been how it worked. Back in the day, those guys had to do it different. They had to work tackle shows and do extra TV segments for the different companies. They had to go do fishing TV shows, things like that. Now it's just every single person has the opportunity to do it now. Nobody's watching, not very many people are watching fishing on TV programming now. And if they are, they're streaming it on an app like My Outdoors TV or something like that. I mean, it's hard to find fishing television shows on regular programming. I mean, there's so many people in the world that don't even have regular television programming. Everybody's just stream. We're just stream only in my house. That's all we do. We don't have any cable, And we get some live stuff through our streaming services. Like the football game is on in there right now because we have the NFL app and we have, Paramount and, Peacock, stuff like that. We can watch that stuff. But the world has changed, and it essentially boils down to this. This is now the TV. The TV is the radio. The radio is the newspaper, and the newspaper's gone. Now I heard that from Gary Vaynerchuk. I didn't come up with that on my own, but I ain't never heard anything more true than that. And back in the day, the Kevin Van Dams, the Roland Martins, the Jimmy Houstons, all those guys, Denny Brauer, they had to get their face on TV either through Bassmaster TV shows or through fishing TV shows to sell product for these companies. You better get your face on this, dog. Like, and in a way where you know what you're doing. Like, in a way that actually gets some attention. Not just throwing up, hey, let's promote this product today because this company told me to promote. You know one of the things that cracks me up the most? You can always tell when a company that sponsors several guys, you can always tell when they release a product. Because every one of those guys makes the same post. And I've been there when I was a Sixth Sense. They will literally send you the thing they want you to post and expect you to put that up. I hated that. I hated that. There's too much information. There's too much advertisement. There's too much content out there these days for that to do any good. They're scrolling right past that, guys. Nobody even wants it. In fact, if you do that enough, they'll unfollow your page. Like, nobody wants that crap anymore. So, I don't know, man. I love fishing at its essence. I've always loved watching tournament fishing since I was a little kid. Love watching Bassmaster. Love watching fishing TV shows. I grew up watching all of them. Hank Parker was probably my favorite, but watched them all, man. Watched Bill Nance. Watched Martin Houston. Loved Zona's fishing show when it came out. When it was, it had a different name in the beginning. I can't remember what it was now, but now it's Zona's Awesome Fishing Show. I've probably seen every episode from every season of Zona. It's one of my favorites. But now I don't really watch them. Like, I say every episode from every season up until a couple years ago. Now I don't. I mean, there's just too much other stuff out there, man. Like, I don't have to wait for Zona's programming to come on 10 episodes a year. I can watch Jacob Wheeler fish whenever I want to on his YouTube channel. Some of those guys that get it. Mark Daniels Jr., which I know him and Jacob run together. And there's Brandon Polinick. I can watch those episodes weekly at times. If they're doing it right, the guys that are doing it right, I can watch them weekly. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling and ranting now. I want to see the industry healthy. I want to see the industry do good and grow. And we've got about as many people fishing as we ever have, especially over the last 5 years with COVID and new exposure from online coverage, from live online coverage, and from social media videos that brought new eyeballs to fishing. We've had as many people fishing over the last 5 years as has ever fished in the history of this sport. And somehow, while that's going on, the tournament fishing industry is struggling. And they will come out and tell you that everything's good. I'll tell you this. I've always thought highly and truly liked Dave Mercer. And I still do. But I think, like, if you look at some of the stuff he's putting out lately, trying to be like, well, it's really not bad. There's nothing wrong. Like the last podcast he did with Gerald Swindle was like, well, there's really nothing wrong with it. You just got to work, blah, blah, blah. No. The dollars aren't there anymore. Like, it's not. Bassmaster's not doing better than they ever have. Like, 80-something guys didn't leave because everything was great, right? Or whatever it was, 70-something, whatever it was. That's not why that happened. Now, you may be doing better now than you were right after those guys left, but you're not doing better than you ever have. The prize money used to be bigger back in the day. The non-endemic sponsors used to be huge back in the day. We had enough exposure on the platforms that fishing controlled that you would get Walmart's involved and, all kinds of different brands that weren't necessarily fishing brands that would get involved in advertising in our sport and spend money. The reason that doesn't happen anymore is because the platforms aren't as effective. That's the only reason that's not happening anymore. Yet you look at a guy like Ben Milligan, and he's got an Orkin deal in his past. He's got a diet service advertising thing in his past. And you look at Lunkers TV, he's had beer companies, he's had food services, he's had the same kind of stuff. All these guys that are major social media influencers that are growing, they have the non-endemic sponsors. So they're still interested in spending money if you get enough eyeball time. They really are. But in fishing, we're not doing it the right way. Like, if the individual anglers can pick up one thing from this conversation, just please understand, your social media attention, the amount of eyeballs you get on your stuff, is more important to your financial fishing career than your tournament finishes are. That is really the truth of it. And I know the hardcore tournament guys don't like that. They don't want to admit that or accept that, but that's the truth. That's utterly the truth. And you can disagree with me if you want to, but that's where I stand on it. It's what I see. It's kind of funny because I'm not even very smart at social media. I didn't grow up with social media. I'm a little bit old for that. I'm not a technologically smart guy in any way. Like it's a struggle for me to get stuff online at times. I'm not good at making thumbnails. I'm not good at researching online trends or cracking algorithms or any of that. But just through sheer, I'll try and put out a lot of content, I've created a platform that in all reality is more valuable and can generate more dollars than most of the guys on tour can. I can make a better living doing this than most of the guys, when supplementing it with guide money, than most of the guys make on tour. I mean, that's when you count in the costs and the expenses, and at the end of the day, you actually add up how much dollars is coming into your household and how much is going out. Financially, I do better than a lot of those guys. Now they may be supplementing it with something else outside of it. They may own a different business or whatever. Like I know, like Zach Burge has a hunting guide service, and some of these guys own all kinds of different businesses out there. So they may have something else that's working for them, and those guys can get by that way, and they're happy doing that. They don't need to change nothing. But for the guys out there that are struggling trying to make it, you better start investing some more time and effort into this internet cell phone thing, dude. Like, you better get after it. You better figure it out. All right. That being said, no more negativity. Let's go to positivity. They're still going to start the season at Toledo Bend, and it's going to be freaking awesome. And I'm going to enjoy that with every inch of my soul, man, because it is going to be really cool, man. Really cool. The shape the fishery's in and everything. It's going to be awesome. Let's answer some questions. Ronnie F says, why do we need to keep growing? Damn, the lakes are full. Let's stop growing. Okay, let me clear up. When I say we need to keep it growing, I don't mean we need more people fishing. I mean, that's fine if that's what happens. I like that. That's good for a guy that's in the business of fishing. It is good to have more people fishing. But we need to grow the dollars. We need to grow the health of the business. And you can do that through getting more eyeball time on fishing. That generates more advertising dollars. If you do that as a whole, as an industry, all of a sudden things get a lot healthier and things get a lot better. What part of Toledo did we fish when we came down there? We were restricted via the wind to Housing Creek. It was getting it. It was a sustained 20-plus wind, gust up to 40. We stayed at Fin and Feather, and we eased across Housing and stayed on that because it was kind of a west-northwest wind. So we just eased straight across Housing, kind of started over there in Hurricane, and just stayed on that northern side of Housing, trying to hide from the wind the best we could. So we were on the northern half of Housing, up and down that deal in several pockets. Tournament fishing will become the side gig. It kind of always had, not always. There was times when prize money was enough, and in relation to the cost of living and economy. I mean, if you think about it, guys, when they were making $100,000 to win a tournament in the 90s or the early 2000s, or sometimes 130, 150,000, right? Like sometimes more they would make, 300,000 at times. Um, I think there was even like $1 million Forest Wood Cup or something like that at one time. When they're making that kind of money, and the cost of living 20 to 30 years ago is what it is, then you didn't have to do as much of that side stuff. But where we are now, yeah, tournament fishing is the side gig. Like the money you're actually winning from the tournaments is the side gig. You got to do something else to generate revenue. What do I think of some of these pros using power brakes on their power poles? I think that's something they're trying to sell. Yeah, that's something else that happens in the industry. You know, it's funny you bring that up. I said no more negative, but I can't steer from it. I guess I just can't not speak the truth on things. Like I can't see something that I think is wrong and not say anything. I don't have that in me. It gets me in trouble at times. I promise you it does. Big trouble. Some of you know. But I was watching some old In Fisherman episodes late last night. I was on my outdoor app and looking for some old fishing shows to watch. I was up late because I ain't been doing nothing because how cold it's been. And watched some old In Fisherman episodes. And, they're sponsored by Berkeley and always have been. Or I don't know if they are now, but because these were old episodes. But the way they were pushing the Berkeley product was so ridiculous. There was one episode where they were on Lake Athens, and you'll know why I watch this if you're local. They were on Lake Athens with Jason Hoffman, great Lake Fork guide, and they were on Lake Athens throwing Alabama rigs. Number one, the host wouldn't call it Alabama rig. He had to call it a schoolie rig because that was the name of the Berkeley rig, was a schoolie rig. They were throwing a 5-arm schoolie rig with no blades on it. In reality, what Jason had been catching them on was a different brand Alabama rig. And oh yeah, he had Zoom Swimming Flip Juniors on the back of it, but the one on TV that they were using during the show had some Berkeley grass pigs on it, which is not as good of a swim bait on an Alabama rig. Everybody that does it knows that. But they had to sit there, and I know Jason, and Jason's a great dude with integrity. We coach flag football in the same league. Like, Jason's good people, man. But Jason had to sit there and tell that guy that this is the one that's working today when Jason knows anytime he's on a guide trip, he's using that other one. Like, he knows that's the better option. That's the reason he uses it on guide trips. And I can't believe they even showed that other rig on that show because, if you know what's going on, you can see it. But just the way that they talk about the Berkeley stuff, this is the perfect. He's sitting there telling the public that you got to have at least a medium heavy rod to throw an Alabama rig. Bro, you ever thrown an A rig on a medium heavy rod? You wouldn't be able to cast it out of your shadow, dude. You need a broomstick to throw an Alabama rig. And they were fishing it on 1/4 ounce heads. No, darn good and well, you are not casting no 1/4 ounce head Alabama rig with 5 arms on a medium heavy rod. He said a 7-foot medium heavy because that's the rod he was told to sell on that show. There's so much of that crap that goes on, and that could be what we're seeing. I only tell that story to relate it to this one that you asked the question. These power brakes on the power poles, they're putting little trolling motors on the power poles. It's essentially what they're doing. That could just be a gimmick thing to sell to fishermen to make money. And these guys are getting paid by whoever makes it to sell it. And they think it's a joke, just like some of us do. They think it's a little much, a little ridiculous, like most of us do. To me, it looks like a little much and a little ridiculous. Now, if it becomes a thing that every single tour guy has on his boat, you can probably bet there's some validity to it. But, man, I'm always slow to buy new stuff in the fishing industry because of how much crap gets shoved down our throat that's just crap. They're just trying to sell something new and make some money. And it may not have any practical use or it may not be that good or whatever. Anybody been cruising the swim bait pages lately? You'll see some of that going on. Who is your dark horse on the Elite Series this year? Do you think Milliken makes a splash year one? He could, man. Here's the thing about Ben, and, it's no secret, man. At this point, there's no love lost between me and 6 Cents. It was an unhappy ending between me and them. I still got people up there that I'm friends with, that I like, and I talk to once in a while. And I've never had any issues with Ben. I've never had a crossword with Ben one. I fished with him several times, a few times over the years, and certainly promoted some stuff with him. And I like, Ben's a good dude. I'll tell you this about Ben: he's a hard worker, and he is ate up with the fishing deal. Back before he was ever tournament fishing, most of these guys that are YouTube dudes, like you go fishing with them, and once you have enough fish for the video, they're ready to get off the water, go home, and edit that video. Ben is a daylight to dark guy. Like, I've been out there in the middle of winter. It starts raining on us, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, we've caught plenty of fish for a video. Let's go. Ben's like, nah, we're staying. Like, Ben, like, you can go. You can leave, but Ben is going to be out there fishing till dark. Tell you that to tell you this. That guy he is in a one-of-a-kind situation that nobody has ever been in before. He started the exact same time I did, about 8 years ago, on the YouTube stuff. And for about 6 of those, I think, or maybe more, so for 6 years, maybe more, he's been full-time on the YouTube deal. He has spent more time on the water than just about any tour-level guy. He's fished all over the country, and he's fished daylight to dark. He's had more drive than most of those guys have to stay on the water. He has had a better training background and preparation to fish top-level tournaments than anybody in the history of the sport has, because he's the one YouTuber that I know that fished as many days as he did and fished daylight to dark and was always looking at it through the lens of being a serious fisherman that was all in on the fishing deal. He was all in on the social media deal too, and he did a great job working on that. And I don't know how the dude operates on as little sleep as he does for all those years. I don't get it, but he's just got to drive, man. He's got to drive. So for all those that think, well, it's his first year out, well, probably a lot of people thought last year, hey, it's first year on the Opens, he's probably not going to qualify. I told everybody at the beginning, man, like, I don't expect him to, because it's such a hard thing to qualify through the Opens, but, like, I'm not surprised if he does. I'm going to say the same thing on the Elite Series. I don't expect him to be a top 10 AOY guy, but I won't be surprised if he does. He's had more prep and more practice before he got there than anybody in the history of the sport ever has. He's got financial freedom because of the business deals he's worked out through social media, because he's taken that part seriously. He has learned how to clickbait and hit the search engine right and get all the attention, and he's gained such a big following over the years. He doesn't have to do much of that anymore, but he used to, and he grew that platform. And so now he generates enough revenue through that what he wins and loses on the Elite Series does not matter to him financially. It doesn't. So he has no financial burden to stress him out. He's not going to be in a tournament and be like, dude, I have to make this check. Like, I've got to stay here and grind out these 2 and 3 pounders to make sure I get a check. If he wants to go take a chance, he's going to go take a chance, because the financial issue is not an issue with him. It may start to be somewhere down the road, but it's not right now. I don't think it is, and I don't know any of this. This is all me just throwing my opinion and my guess out there. So I think he's in a very unique situation to have success on the Elite Series as a rookie. A very unique situation. I think he's got every opportunity to do well. And now, because of the way the world is now and the way the fishing industry is now, all those guys on the tour are going to try to be his best buddy, because they all want what he has on the business side of things. So they're going to love on him. They're going to give him information. They're going to talk to him. And Ben doesn't need the information, but they're going to be nice to Ben. They're not going to treat him like, we don't know you, which you do get treated like by some people out there if you're not Ben Milliken. I promise you, like, there's guys that get on that tour and like, damn, this is harsh out here. Ben's not going to get that welcoming. Bass is going to love him because he's going to help grow Bass because of his social media following. He already has in the Opens tremendously. I promise you that Open on Toledo Bend last year, it probably got more views than some of the Elite Series stuff did. He's going to help Bass grow. He's going to be the best thing that's happened to Bass in a long, long time from a business standpoint. So those guys are all going to love on him. Bass is going to love on him. They're going to want the camera in his boat every time they get a chance. he's got a very unique opportunity to be successful and be one of the biggest names in the industry. I mean, he already is on the business side, but on the tournament fishing side, to really be one of the biggest names in the industry, he's got a real chance to do that in the first year. Who is my dark horse? I mean, I haven't really sat down and thought about it and really analyzed the schedule much. Let me look at the schedule real quick. Tell you guys who I think is going to do good this year. Let me see. So we got Toledo Bend, followed right away by Lake Fork. Classics on Grand Lake, but that doesn't matter for standings. Harris Chain, St. John's, Florida in April. That'll be interesting. Lake Murray, South Carolina, Wheeler Lake, Smith Lake, Alabama. Then we got 2 smallmouth events, Champaign, St. Lawrence. And to be honest with you, I didn't, because I really just, the schedule wasn't as interesting to me last year. I didn't pay as much attention last year, so I'm not up to speed on who's really been like trending and fishing the best. One guy that I think is always, you can always count on is Patrick Walters. That's not a dark horse by any means, but Patrick Walters is there for sure. Like, he's up there in the conversation. With them going to Toledo and Fork and 2 Florida tournaments, you got to look at Lee Livesey. Now, how he'll do the rest of the schedule after that, maybe not so much. But for the first half of the year, I bet Lee Livesey looks pretty good. You never know with Lee. Like, he's kind of an all or nothing. It seems like from what we've seen, he can be like an all or nothing guy. I mean, he's been consistently good in the points. But, like, tournament to tournament, he's either way up there or he can be way down there at times. So, never know with Lee. But that first half, those first 4 events of the Elite Series, take the Classic out, sets up really good for him. I don't know a lot of the brand new guys, but they'll probably be, with live scope and stuff, there'll probably be some dudes on there that do it. Man, so much is going to depend on the weather that first 2 weeks, because they go back-to-back weeks from February 22nd to 25th, Toledo, February 29th to March 3rd at Lake Fork. If you get cold, trending water and cold weather, that's going to be live scoper's paradise in those tournaments. If you get warm trending water, it opens up the field to where maybe for the first 4 events, we don't see much live scope. Because after that, when you go to Florida in April, I can't imagine that live scope's going to really be the main thing. Now, I know Tyler Reve won on Okeechobee last year using live scope early in the year. That was such an oddball deal. Most of the field was not looking at scope in that tournament. Florida in the springtime, you're probably not going to be scoping much. In Florida in general, just the vegetation's so dense and everything at times. Probably going to be a lot of frogging and pitching and flipping. Probably a flippers deal there in Florida. So if you have warm trending weather, it's going to completely change those first 2 events. Completely change those first 2 events. And that could completely change the beginning of the Angler of the Year race based on that. Because you got a lot of guys that are going to be good scopers. That's why Patrick Walters is always there, because he's great at scoping. He'll get up there and flip with them too. Like, he'll flip them, he'll sight fish them, he'll kind of do, like, he can do everything. So that's why he's consistently up there every year. Oh, dark horse. You wanted a dark horse. Man, I just don't know the roster well enough and all that to really give you a good one. Let's come back to that on an episode. We'll talk about a dark horse on the Elite Series at an episode before we get to the Toledo tournament. I'll do a little research and we'll knock that out for you. Pat Underwood says, speaking of money, when are we going to have the new jigs available? That'll be mid-February is what we're hoping for. Worst case, late February is what I'm being told. So hopefully it's before the Elite Series is at Fork. That's definitely what we're shooting for. Did I get to check the mouth of housing for grass? Yeah, dude, it's everywhere. Like, yes, it's there. Like, there's grass. Like out in the main part of housing, there's grass. If you're in less than 10 or 12 feet, grass is almost to the surface. You start seeing it in about 15 feet. There's grass everywhere. It's as good as I've ever seen it on Toledo in my life. Exactly what is the spectrum of baits you'll be producing? Excited to get my hands on the jigs. Yeah, so if you didn't hear, we are starting a new bait company venture. We're going to start with a jig. We'll give you guys all the information on that. We're also going to have We're going to work with Smash Tech. We're bringing the big perm worm that I've used for years. That worm is coming over to this new company. We're going to have big shaky heads to pair with that, and those will be ready. That'll be the next product that comes out, and that'll be in April. We'll have those ready to purchase in April, so you can get them ready for summer. And then after that, we're going to go to work on a crawl bait and a swim bait. I've got a very unique crawl design that I've been working on, and you don't think you could be that unique with a crawl design. This one's going to be different. It's going to be unique, and it's something that I've had this idea in my head for a long time and never have found anything quite like it. And so I'm really excited to get that crawl bait because it'll be a great jig trailer. It'll be great on a swing head. It'll be, the way it's going to be designed, it'll be great on a Carolina rig. It's going to be a really unique bait that's really, really good. A lot of action on it. And then we're going to design a small swim bait. We're not going to get into the big swim bait game. Not right away anyway, but we are going to design the 4-inch category of swim baits. This probably the most popular swim bait styles, 4 and 5 inches. We're going to design a bait, and I've got some ideas about that I'm really excited. Everything that we do, man, we're going to try to have some upper end design aspects to it. I've been fishing a lot of different baits, been spending a lot of time on the water for 8 years now, and I'm a tinker. Always have been a tinker and a detail guy on baits, and I got some ideas that I think are kind of unique and interesting and should be really effective to get bites. And we're going to try to make the best quality baits. Where our baits, whatever else is in that category, ours are as good or better than anything out there. I told my partner on this that I will not ever mention or plug or sell one bait if it's not to that standard. It's got to be great. And that'll be the standard I stand on. No matter how big or small the company gets, I will give up money to stand on that standard. I absolutely will. And those of you that know me know I will. I'll give up money for a lot of stupid stuff I believe in. But so that's the baits we're going to start with, and I've got a bunch of ideas for other stuff, but it's going to take time, guys. I mean, we are right at the very beginning. We're before the beginning at this point, and it's going to be a slow burn getting this thing up off the ground because we're going to do it right, and we're going to do it within our means as well. So it's expensive to launch baits. It really is. So it'll take some time to get it all going. We're going to have you guys involved, more involved than you've ever had a chance to be in any other company. You're going to get to pick some of the names. We may even have some color selection deals where you guys get to pick some colors. We'll have contests for those and have you guys really involved. Want y'all's feedback. Want to really create a community in this company. It's going to be called Bass Amigos. We really want to create a community in this company where you guys feel like you're part of it. And it's a product that you can believe in and that works, and we're going to get it to you for a fair price. Has my buddy Randy Carpenter helped you with forward-facing sonar? Meeting with Randy at Fork has helped my fishing tremendously. Yeah, so me and Randy have actually tried to get together a couple times, and just things happen where it didn't work out. But we have never actually gotten face-to-face. We've talked on the phone a couple times. He's the Garmin Guru, I believe, is his YouTube channel. He's got some great informative forward-facing sonar content. But hopefully we'll continue to try and eventually make it happen where we can get together. We have tried a couple times in the past. It just hadn't worked out schedule-wise and all that good stuff. So definitely interested in talking to Randy about that stuff. So, man, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, man. I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. I am extremely excited for the start of this tournament season. I can't wait to see what happens at these first two events. And, yeah, man, it's fishing season. It's here, dude. Fishing season is upon us. Bass Pro Tour starts in just a couple weeks. I'm fired up. As soon as some of this freaking snow and ice gets off the road, I'll be at the lake every single day that I can. It's time, dude. It's pre-spawn. It's go time, dude. It's good. And it's good. Fork's in good shape too, by the way. It's, around 2 feet low, 1.5 2 feet low. Fork's got some grass in it. Probably going to fill up a little more because it usually does. Right going into March or so, it usually will get a little lift in the water level. And if that happens again, going into spawn, it's going to be just an amazing spawn on Lake Fork. And if you guys need a guide trip or anything, holler at your boy. We'll get you lined up. We still got some openings, a few openings for spring left. And if you want to get out in the pre-spawn, we got some openings for that. So appreciate everything y'all do for me, man. Let's keep doing it. We'll have a great time catching them and talking about it in 2024, helping each other catch more and bigger fish. We'll see you guys next time right here on your Lake